It started with a dare, but it ended with a scream. Not just any scream, the kind that stays with you for the rest of your life, the kind that echoes in your ears at 3 a.m. when everything else is quiet and you're just lying there, wide-eyed, begging your brain to shut up. I was 10, just a scrawny, stubborn kid growing up in a forgotten little town in Vermont, where autumns were beautiful, winters were brutal, and nothing ever really happened. Unless, of course, you count ghost stories. And everyone in our town knew that story. The legend of the Green Lady. They said she used to live near the swamp that kissed the edge of the cemetery. Something terrible happened to her. Something about a betrayal, a drowning, and a promise that she'd come back. Now she was cursed or vengeful or maybe just lonely. The details changed depending on who you asked. But the glowing part? That was always the same. She glowed green in the dark, like she was radioactive. Kids would dare each other to go near the cemetery fence at night, and some swore they'd seen her walking between the gravestones, her long hair floating like it was underwater. Me? I thought it was all bull, until the day we decided to find her. It was a Saturday, chilly, damp, and gray. The kind of day that feels haunted even without a ghost. There were 5 of us, me, Ellie, my best friend and a certified maniac, the twins, Jake and Sam, who never turned down a dare, and then there was Robbie. He was new in town and still trying to prove he wasn't a chicken. Poor guy. "We'll go right before sunset," Ellie had said, like we were planning a casual picnic. That way we're in there when it gets dark. That's when she comes out. I remember rolling my eyes, playing it cool, but truthfully. My stomach had already started flipping. We met behind the old church with flashlights, peanut butter sandwiches, and way too much fake bravado. I even brought a Polaroid camera because if we did see her, I wanted proof. We hopped the broken fence behind the graveyard where the grass grew too tall and the headstones leaned like they were drunk. The swamp was just past that, quiet, black, and still as glass. No frogs, no crickets, just silence. The kind of silence that made you feel watched. "Let's split up," Jake said. "Are you serious?" I snapped. "Have you never seen a horror movie?" He laughed, but there was a nervous edge to it. We all had it, the weird, twitchy energy that comes when you know you're doing something stupid but you have to do it anyway. So we walked together, slowly, past the graves, past the willow trees, right up to the edge of the swamp. And that's when Robbie saw her. He froze. His flashlight dropped, beams spinning wild through the trees. "Oh my God," he whispered. "She's real." I laughed. "Yeah, right, nice try, Robbie." But then I saw the color. Not white, not blue, green. A glowing green figure was moving between the trees, not walking, gliding. Her hair floated behind her like strands of seaweed. Her face, God, I'll never forget that face. Pale, hollow, but somehow still pretty. And her eyes, empty, glowing like emeralds. Everyone ran. I didn't. I don't know why. I couldn't move. I felt pulled, like something inside me wanted to go with her, like she was calling me without even speaking. "Emma!" Ellie's voice broke the trance. "Run!" And I did, but not before the Green Lady looked right at me. Well, that was 15 years ago. I'm 30 now. Moved out, new life, big city. I thought I left that night behind me, but 3 days ago, I got a letter. No name, no return address, just 5 words. It was late summer, the kind of sticky, restless night where the cicadas never shut up and your brain just won't stop buzzing. School was starting in a week, and we were trying to suck every last drop of freedom out of what little summer we had left. Me, Tommy, Luke, and Sarah. We were bored out of our minds, sprawled across Sarah's porch, chugging warm soda and swatting at mosquitoes. The sky was turning pinkish orange, and that's when Luke, in that smug tone of his, leaned back and said, Let's go to the cemetery tonight. Let's call the Green Lady. I laughed. Of course he'd say that. Luke loved being the one who pushed boundaries. That's fake, I said, waving him off. Just a campfire story. But Sarah sat up, dead serious. Not if you follow the rules. I blinked. What rules? Tommy leaned in like we were planning a secret heist. You don't know the rules? I shrugged. Didn't realize we needed a ritual to get stood up by a ghost. Sarah ignored me. You have to go right after sunset. Not too early, not too late, just as the sun disappears behind the trees. Tommy added, and you have to stand by the oldest grave. You know, the one with the broken angel on top? Everyone in town knew that grave. It leaned hard to the left like it was giving up, and the angel's wings were shattered clean off, like someone had punched them out with a hammer. Then what? I asked, half curious, half annoyed that I was kind of buying into it. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. You say, Green Lady, show your light 3 times, then wait. If she likes you, she'll appear. And if she doesn't? I smirked. Tommy didn't smile back. Then you better run. I rolled my eyes, but I wasn't fooling anyone. I was hooked. We all were. That night, around 8:15, we snuck out. Flashlights, peanut M&Ms, one of those cheap plastic cameras. I had the ritual written on a crumpled napkin in my hoodie pocket, like we were about to summon a demon and I didn't want to forget the words. The cemetery looked different at night. Colder, still, but not peaceful. The air felt thick, like it was holding its breath. We crept past the rusted gate and headed for the back, where the angel grave stood crooked and moss-covered, half swallowed by weeds. None of us spoke. Even Luke was quiet, chewing the inside of his cheek like he wasn't sure this had been such a fun idea after all. We formed a little circle, our flashlights casting long, shaky shadows across the cracked stones. Sarah looked at her watch. Sun's down. Luke nudged me. Go on, tough girl, say the words. I rolled my eyes again, but stepped forward. I took a breath. The wind felt weirdly warm against my neck. Green Lady, show your light, I said, loud enough to hear my own echo. Nothing. Green Lady, show your light, I said again, a little softer. Still nothing. I hesitated. The third time felt heavier, like finishing a spell or crossing a line you can't uncross. Green Lady, I swallowed. Show your light. And then, snap, a twig. Behind us. Sarah spun around. What was that? Tommy's flashlight flickered. Luke hissed. Did someone bring a phone? Was that a sound effect? No, I whispered. That came from the woods. Everything went quiet. No crickets, no breeze, just us. And something else, something moving. I turned back toward the grave, and that's when I saw it. A faint, pulsing green glow behind the angel statue. Low to the ground, almost like fog, but it was rising. Tommy gasped. Do you see that? We all stared, frozen. Then the light started to move, slowly toward us. Run, Sarah said. But my feet wouldn't move, because I could see her now. A figure, barely visible through the green mist. Long hair, hollow eyes, floating, not walking. She looked exactly like the stories, and she was coming straight for me. We stood near the old angel statue. The place was quiet, too quiet. No wind, no bugs, no sounds. Just us and the graves. We said the words, Green Lady, show your light. Green Lady, show your light. Green Lady, show your light. For a moment, nothing happened. Tommy laughed nervously. Told you, it's just a story. But then Sarah gasped. Look! In the trees beyond the fence, there was a faint green glow. It shimmered like mist, moving slowly through the woods. Luke whispered, Is that her? The glow moved closer, and then we saw her. She looked like a woman in an old dress, glowing green all over. Her face was blurry, like underwater. She didn't walk. She floated. She didn't speak. She just lifted her hand and pointed at us. I froze. Every part of me screamed run, but my feet wouldn't move. Tommy broke first. He ran. Sarah followed. I turned to go, but Luke didn't move. He stared at her like he was hypnotized. I grabbed his arm. "Come on!" He blinked and snapped out of it, and we all ran. After that night, strange things started happening. Tommy had nightmares so bad he stopped sleeping. He said she came into his room whispering to him. Sarah got sick. She wouldn't leave her house. Her parents said she just stared out the window all day, waiting. And Luke? He changed. He started going back to the cemetery alone. I begged him to stop. He said, "She wants me to come. She told me things." "What things?" I asked. "She showed me where she died. She wants me to see." I tried to tell my parents, but they didn't believe me. "Just a scary story," they said. Then one day, Luke disappeared. It was fall now. Leaves were red and orange. The cemetery looked even scarier. I went back alone, thinking maybe I could find Luke. Maybe it was all just in our heads. But I saw her again. This time she was waiting. Same glowing green dress, same floating figure. But this time, she smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was cold, empty. She raised her hand again. I turned and ran, tears in my eyes, heart racing. I didn't stop until I got home. That was the last time I ever went near the cemetery. Years passed. I moved away. I tried to forget. But sometimes I see that green glow. In dreams, in reflections. Even in my backyard once. She never left me. I still don't know who or what she really is. But I know this. If you ever hear about the Green Lady, if you ever see a green light in the woods, don't follow it. Don't say her name, because once she sees you, she never forgets.